Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a topic that's incredibly stressful for so many families and caregivers. We're talking about the rejection of pureed food.
And this really isn't just about nutrition, is it? It's about dignity. It's about safety.
Absolutely.
For so many adults, people recovering from a stroke, navigating dementia pureed food is actually a critical safety measure.
Hmm.
It's there to prevent choking. But when every single spoonful is met with gagging or panic,
Yeah, the immediate thought is they're just being stubborn.
exactly. And that's the assumption our source material just completely challenges from the get-go.
So we have a situation where the food is, objectively safe to eat, but the person's brain is screaming that it's a threat.
That's the conflict right there. It's the texture itself. That mushy, uniform feeling triggers this immediate defensive reaction. The clinical term for it is sensory defensiveness.
Sensory defensiveness.
Yeah, the person isn't trying to be difficult. Their brain has literally flagged that texture as dangerous. It's an automatic, almost primal response that just says, do not swallow this.
Okay, so it's like a sensory wires crossed situation. The nervous system sees a threat where there isn't one. So let's unpack that. What's actually happening to make a texture that's supposed to be easy feel so menacing?
Well, there are really four things that all kind of come together here. First up is just diminished oral motor coordination.
Okay, so the actual muscles in the mouth.
Right. Moving food around in your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
even a puree, takes a lot of subtle muscle control. When that starts to break down, the food can kind of linger, and that gives the brain more time to panic about it.
Right, the physical act itself gets confusing, so the brain just says, nope, abort mission.
Exactly. Then the second factor is a heightened tactile sensitivity. For you or I, it's smooth, but for them, that puree can feel, well, sticky or slimy, and it just irritates the inside of the mouth. It's overwhelming.
And the third one is fascinating to me, that losing other senses like taste and smell somehow makes the texture feel worse. Why is that?
I mean, think about it this way. Our senses all work together, right? If you've got
Yeah.
this rich flavor and a nice aroma, that's a signal to your brain that this is good, this is safe.
Hmm.
But when you take away taste and smell, all that's left is the texture. It's like turning the volume dial for texture up to 11 while the taste is down at a 2.
So the texture is the only thing the brain can focus on.
And it becomes this singular, overwhelming input. That's what triggers that gag reflex.
That is such a critical insight. So because this is a behavioral thing, a neurological challenge, we're not fighting the person. We're actually trying to retrain their nervous system.
Precisely. And that means we need gentle, systematic strategies. We're talking about building trust through two main pillars, a really good preference assessment, and then sensory desensitization.
Okay, let's start with that assessment. The sources are really clear on this. You don't start with the food they hate. You don't guess. You have to figure out what they're already tolerating.
Yes, because you have to start from a place of success. If you just jump to the hard stuff, you're just reinforcing the trauma.
You're proving their brain right that mealtime is scary.
You are. So this assessment, it means you have to be a detective. You're observing and recording these really subtle preferences. If you skip this, you're basically just flying blind.
And what are we looking for specifically? What kind of details are we logging?
You're looking at three main things. First, temperature. Is a warm puree easier than, say, a cool yogurt or room temp applesauce? Sometimes cooler temps can kind of numb things a little.
Okay, temperature. What's next?
Flavor. Are mild flavors better?
Mhm.
Or maybe really distinct ones? And third, and this is the big one, texture nuance.
Texture nuance. To most people, puree is just puree. It's smooth. What's the spectrum there?
Oh, for someone with sensory defensiveness, the differences are massive. You've got the super smooth end, like a commercial applesauce or a strained yogurt. Very little effort needed.
Right.
Then you might have something a little thicker, like a pudding or a soup that coats the spoon. And then you get to things like really thick whipped mashed potatoes. The viscosity, the density, it all feels completely different.
So a thicker texture might actually feel safer for some people.
It can, yeah. It gives more feedback to the muscles. A really thin, watery puree can feel unpredictable, like it's going to go down the wrong way, and that triggers panic.
So the whole point is to find that one specific combination, texture, temp, flavor, that causes the least amount of stress. That's our baseline.
That's your baseline.
Yeah.
And here's the golden rule. If a food causes immediate, sustained gagging, you've gone too far.
You've jumped too high on the ladder.
Exactly. You have to step back to what you know works. We're looking for a starting point, not perfection.
Okay, so that leads us to the actual doing it,
Yeah.
the sensory desensitization ladder. This sounds like it takes an incredible amount of patience. How do you introduce something new without breaking all that trust you just built?
Have to be slow, predictable, and
Mm.
and transparent. You start with that thing you know they tolerate. Let's say it's a smooth vanilla pudding.
Okay, vanilla pudding, safe food. But now you have to get in the mashed sweet potato they need. I can just feel the pressure a caregiver is under, to just sneak a bite in.
And the sources are so clear on this. Never, ever force or sneak in food
Why is that so bad in the long run?
because it validates the fear. It tells the nervous system, see, I was right to be scared. Mealtime is a trick. You increase the trauma, and you actually make the gag reflex worse over time.
So sneaking it in is a short-term gain for a huge long-term
A
loss.
huge loss. The goal is predictable trust.
So if we're being transparent, how do you actually introduce the new texture without setting off all the alarms?
You use what we call micro amounts, and I mean extremely tiny. You take, say, an eighth of a teaspoon of the sweet potato, maybe even less, and you add it to the pudding.
An eighth of a teaspoon, that's practically nothing.
It's almost nothing, and you mix it in so thoroughly. The idea is the brain registers, okay, this is 99% my safe pudding and 1% something else.
And you just stay there for a while.
You stay there for days, maybe 3, 5 days, even a week. You're building tolerance in these tiny, durable steps. You're letting the body learn, this change isn't dangerous, I can handle this.
So success isn't clearing the plate. Success is eating the mixed texture for 3 days in a row with, like, a relaxed face.
That's exactly it. The person's comfort level dictates the pace. If you see them tense up, you wait longer at that ratio. It's like a strength training for the nervous system. You need rest days.
And this idea of predictability, it seems like it extends to the whole meal, right? Not
Right.
just what's on the spoon.
Oh, absolutely. The whole environment has to signal safety. A predictable routine calms the nervous system, and that directly reduces gagging.
So what does that look like?
You describe the food before the bite. Here comes the cool vanilla. You show them the
Yeah.
spoon. You move slowly. You have a relaxed face. And you offer breaks. You never, ever hover the spoon in front of their mouth. That just builds anxiety.
What about positive reinforcement, pairing the hard work with something good?
Yes, that's really helpful. You pair the challenge with something they love. It could be a warm smile or praise, or it could be food-related, a tiny sip of their favorite drink right after a successful bite.
And the room itself, I'm guessing a loud TV in the background is a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea. Loud noises, bright lights. They put the whole sensory system on high alert. You want the opposite. Soft music, neutral lighting. You're trying to create a state of calm so the spoon doesn't feel like an attack.
We have to talk about safety, though. We're talking about sensory issues. But what if it's a physical problem with swallowing? What are the red flags where a caregiver needs to stop and call a doctor?
This is paramount. If the gagging happens with all foods, even that safe, cool pudding you found, or, and this is critical, if they're coughing or struggling with thin liquids like water, you stop.
You stop everything.
You stop the behavioral approach. That could signal a mechanical swallowing problem, what's called dysphagia, or a risk of aspiration. You need a formal swallow evaluation by a speech-language pathologist, an SLP, immediately.
So sensory strategies are a supplement, not a replacement for medical care.
Never a replacement.
And what about communication? When someone turns their head away or pushes the spoon, how should we read that?
That is communication. It's not misbehavior. It's them saying, this is too much for me right now. And you have to respect that signal instantly. Stop, take a step back on that ladder, and reassess. If you push, you just break trust.
Okay, let's get into some of the more nuanced challenges. What about when the problem starts before the food even gets near their mouth, this idea of visual defensiveness?
Yeah, this is a big one. It's when just the sight of the food is overwhelming. Imagine a big scoop of bright green pureed peas on a stark white plate. That could feel aggressive to a sensitive system.
So what's the fix for that?
You use visual solutions. Much smaller portions, for one. Use a small bowl, not a big plate. Maybe you cover part of the plate. And you can play with color contrast. Try serving a light-colored food on a dark plate. It just makes it feel less visually jarring.
And another common one is flavor. Why is it that so many people will only accept sweet purees?
There's actually a physiological reason for that. Sweet flavors can literally have a calming effect on an overactive nervous system. Savory flavors are often more complex. They might have bitter or acidic notes that take more sensory processing.
So they can feel kind of destabilizing.
They can. So the strategy is to use that sweet success. You start with what works, say applesauce, and then you begin that micro amount process with a very mild savory puree, like carrot or potato.
So you're blending the calm signal of sweet with the nutrition of savory.
Exactly. But you do it slowly.
Mhm.
You wouldn't want to blend a bunch of different flavors at once. That would just be sensory overload.
So when we pull all this together, it's pretty clear that success looks very different from just, getting them to eat a full meal.
Oh, absolutely. Progress is gradual. It's
Yeah.
gagging, going from every bite to just some bites. It's accepting 2 or 3 textures instead of only one. And honestly, the biggest measure of success is just seeing a more relaxed face at the table. You're replacing fear with certainty.
This has been such a helpful deep dive, just really practical, gentle steps. So to sum it up, first, you assess their preferences in detail. Second, you desensitize using those tiny micro amounts. And third, you create a calm, predictable environment.
And please, remember this safety message. These are powerful behavioral tools, but if you have any concern about choking or the mechanics of swallowing, you must consult a licensed health professional, a doctor, an SLP. Get a proper evaluation.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, if a tiny, almost undetectable shift in the thickness of food can trigger a full-on panic response, it really raises a bigger question, doesn't it? What other quiet sensory things in our own daily lives, maybe it's a low hum from the refrigerator or flickering office lights, what are those things doing to subconsciously raise our own anxiety, even when we're perfectly safe? Understanding this might be the key to creating a calmer world, not just at the dinner table, but for everyone.